I want to do a video on part of my metaphysics or my overall viewpoint about the nature of reality or the nature of our consciousness. Because at least one person, Melody, was using my concept of the front, and I want to explain it better. A front is what we perceive as reality or opinion. So we all have a front, which is our claim. We claim some people to be loving, some people claim to be expert in engineering and who knows what. That's their front. When you're arrested, your front is broken, you're busted, meaning the state is claiming you're something other than what you claim. It's claiming you're a criminal. So your front is busted. That's why it's called a bust. Not necessarily because they bust down the door. They bust your front. The whole pandemic lockdown is a front. It's based on certain claims, and it could collapse, just like Nazi Germany was a front, Communist Russia was a front, colonial America was a front, the Dark Ages was a front. A front is a momentum of thinking. And a weather is called a front because I think it's related. That's why when you have major invasions and the change of the front, which is the change or the challenge to the claim, you have storming the city, you have the snowstorms of the Napoleon invasion of Russia, of Hitler's invasion. You had the storm that delayed the Normandy invasion. You had the storm that wiped out half of the Spanish Armada. You had the storm that wiped out Kublai Khan's invasion of Japan. That when there's a large enough claim that enough people hold, it affects the weather. And of course, there's weather modifications, just like your own front, your own claim affects your health. The question is, do other people accept your claim, or are they challenging your front? Now, I'm going to talk a while about it because it's difficult to get the idea, because you don't hear it on TV or school, or you don't hear it in church. You have a front, which is what you claim to be. Nations, cities, organizations have a front in which they claim to be. It's like Bill Gates, he's got this front that he's a charitable person when these foundations and charities are just creating the market for their financial holdings. So the pharmaceutical industry was largely based on the chemical industry, which was based on the petroleum industry, which was largely controlled by the Rockefellers. So the Rockefeller Foundation sponsored a lot of medicine and drugs to further their market, just like Bill Gates sponsored the lockdown to further his market of Microsoft remote computing into office and to school. But his front is he's charitable, and then you charge the front. The front is also conventions. I think there's like three, could be more. I'm not here with the absolute truth. There could be more than one layer. There's the layer of a few people, what they think. Your home is a front. Are you a decent, wholesome family, or is one of the spouses adulterous? Is one of the children delinquent? So you have a front, and your front can be busted, which is your frame, how you frame can be reframed. So the government can frame you like Julian Assange is framed as a criminal, so held in prison. Now, the Greeks understood this, the ancient Greeks. And I want to explain this story because what I'm explaining to you comes from scholarship. It's not just, wild speculation off of the position of the stars or something like that. But it is related because everything is consciousness, and you got three layers. You got mass, which is usually consciousness that has been in that direction for millions or billions of years. Difficult to change. Momentum is, mass times velocity. And then you have precedent or culture, which has gone on for decades or hundreds of years, like the dishonesty of vaccines, that they're safe and effective. And nothing's safe and effective. There's varying degrees depending on when it's used, who's it's used upon, the situation. These generalizations are fronts, but the front of vaccine has been going on 100 years. It's a difficult front, whereas the pandemic and lockdown has been going on 2-3 years. It's not as difficult as a front to challenge as the vaccines, which is not as difficult of a front to challenge as the United States as a democracy, which that front's been going on for over 200 years. And so there's a momentum to consciousness. And your front hasn't probably gone on for more than 20 years, so it's very easy to change. So the front is the supposed values and intentions of a person or a group of people or a nation. That's the front. So you had the Communist Front, the Nazi Front, and the Allied Front, both with different values, both with different not both, all with different values, propaganda. And they fought at the front. It was not only weather disasters, but actual disasters. You have the Palestinian Front, you have the Israeli Front, and they clash. And often in history, the clash is war, but if it isn't war, I'm claiming it's floods. So, Noah's Ark was a new front. Front is a new set of values, a new arc, New York, new arc. So what's going to be the supposed values? So it's a little hard to understand the front because it's not explained to you in culture. The front is the storefront, what it claims to be. It may not be what it claims to be. Now the difficult thing, hi Sean and Sandra and Carol, the real difficult thing is you could have a sincere front. Someone can frame you falsely like Julian Assange, collapse your sincere front. You can be killed on a false charge. And I said the ancient Greeks understood this. This is Euripides' play, Hippolytus. And Hippolytus, the king Theseus, who's considered the founder of Athens, the founder of the Greek Empire, Theseus, who defeated the Minotaur. He has a second wife, Hippolyta, and his first son, and it's strange, Hippolytus, U.S., Hippolytus, and Hippolyta. While his second wife falls in love with his son and kills herself because he won't respond. The son says, no, I'm not having a relationship with my father's second wife. And she leaves a suicidal note that she killed herself because she had an adulterous relationship. Well, Theseus charges his son, who was innocent, and he's killed in a chariot, a car accident. There's another story in which Asclepius heals him, and he goes on to find the city himself. That's different. The important point of the story is someone can sincerely believe you're a criminal when you're not. And because they sincerely believe you're a criminal, even though you're not, it can destroy you, it can kill you, it can harm you, because they have enough momentum of consciousness that when they use it, it destroys your front, even if your front is true. And that's the difficult thing about life. False fronts survive, true fronts survive. You have to investigate. And of course, a lot of us investigated and found the vaccine front was not true. It was corrupt, political, dishonest, harmful. So you investigate a front and see whether what is stated is true. Now, you normally, in order to survive, you have to go along with the fronts. you can prosecute a front, charge a front. You know, you got one bad friend, okay. Say this person's been dishonest to me. You got 10 bad friends and you're outnumbered 10 to 1. You may not be conventionally wise to challenge all 10 people, but to get away. So conventions are the flow of fronts, and conventions have a momentum like consciousness. They can be decades, hundreds of years old. It's hard to challenge them. I mean, that's the case with my mother and father. They were hardworking, responsible people, but under the brainwashing of Catholicism and American shallow patriotism politics, and, you know, supporting war, wrongful war, and obedience to authority, and racist. I couldn't challenge it because they were embedded in Catholicism, millions of people. They were embedded in the false warmongering of the United States. They were embedded in a lot of very powerful fronts, so I had to leave home. I had to establish my own front. By front, I don't mean insincere. I mean, your front is your claims. And you try to justify your claims. And your claims can be challenged in court. You could be busted, even if your claims are true, because you need enough support in other people or other consciousness that will verify your claims. And that's why most governments are based on records. The real power is records, because records, oh, you really are that age. Oh, you really did get married. Oh, you really had that many children. Oh, you really worked there for 10 years. Oh, that was your skill. Oh, you got these awards. So records are important because the front can become so flexible and so misty it could dissolve. So part of the claim, and it's a legitimate claim to power of governments, is they try to keep some accurate records. A lot of them are not accurate, but that's where the power is in records. And we could go back to the different civilizations, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and you can see the records kept. So we don't get the buildup of civilization until we see writing and records, because of this issue of challenging the front. And since the government has the records, it's got kind of the upper hand in establishing what front is going to be accepted. And you can't challenge all the fronts. So you usually want to come into court or into a situation using the available fronts and available conventions to argue your case. Yeah, it's hard, you know. I complain people go for hours talking, don't make a point. But I got to build around this concept. What's the front? Like the Bill of Rights. They're not God-given inalienable rights. That's the front. They're easily taken away, so they're not God-given. Your Bill of Rights are a claim. That's why it's a bill. You owe. You have to defend your Bill of Rights. I just got done exercising. I need some water. Okay, so we make claims. It's like a miner or a prospector goes out, he claims some land, and now he has to validate his claim by digging up gold or silver or copper, being able to sell it, pay the price or whatever money was necessary to sustain his claim. So we make a claim, and we got to dig up the facts to support our claim, and that's our Bill of Rights. We make a claim to freedom of speech, freedom of press, and we may do it. Facebook may block us. We may be fired from the newspaper, from the television station, even though our claims are valid, because we're being framed. And for some reason, the video just stalled on mine. But we need to understand this concept and how it may relate to the universe, which is you get enough consciousness moving in a direction that section of the universe is tuned to that consciousness. And when that claim of that consciousness falls, you have a disaster. Somehow the claim, the momentum of consciousness, seems to spill over to the buildings, to people. And war is you're challenging the claims of other countries, and you're taking down their buildings or their power plants because you're claiming their claims are not legitimate. They could be, but you have enough momentum of consciousness, you have enough armaments, enough momentum that your credibility is sustained, and you're using your credibility against another country. Hi, Shannon. And hey, Drew. And Melody, glad you made it. Hope you had a good lunch. So we usually try to use a conventional argument. Someone challenges a front, let's say police arrest us and try to bust us. And they make certain claims on us, and now we have to disprove those claims, even though our Constitution says you're innocent until proven guilty. Much of courts are based on hearsay. Much of it is based on authoritarianism, which is the police and the judge are given far too much credibility. And they try to frame the person as defective in character. So character witnesses are important at times to sway a jury. And also records. Don't have a history of this. I don't do this. Or this is a false charge. And so a policeman is more likely to stop you. He punches in your license plates to find out you had 5 speeding tickets. You're more likely to get a speeding ticket because you have a precedent of having speeding tickets. Front claims rights culture. And it's related to the weather. That's why we call a change of weather a cold front, a warm front. And I think consciousness does embed itself somewhat in water, a dream state, not oriented. That's why they say justice is blind, because natural justice is blind. Much of justice has collateral damage. But that justice is blind, I'm explaining to you. You could have a sincere front like Julian Assange supposedly has. The government can frame you as a criminal and has enough credibility to get cooperation in the frame, so justice becomes blind because justice is based on claims and who can project their claims and how well can you defend your claim. And it's my theory or conjecture that most of court cases occur outside of the court. It's how you work your claim and your defense to your claim and whether it takes, how you argue your position. And I said this natural, really supernatural justice is based on 11, 22, and 44 years on solar cycles. It takes a while for your thinking to take, which is get amplified by the sun. The sun's a bunch of magnetic loops or lasers that amplify certain frequencies that I think are compatible with its own momentum. Sun has a whole bunch of momentums, a whole bunch of layers at different latitudes that rotate at different speeds. Whole bunch, probably billions of magnetic loops. So a lot of the ancients did not see the sun as one god. I mean, the Greeks saw it as Apollo pulling with his chariot the sun. And the Hawaiians and others saw it the house of their ancestors. But I don't want to get into what looks like religious or metaphysical conjecture that much. What I do want to claim is that society weakens you by either pushing you towards organized religion so you don't argue your case correctly. You put it in the hands of some ultimate being that's going to take your case. Not only the judge, the lawyer in the sky. Or you don't believe it. You don't believe life is based on the momentum of consciousness, you're materialistic. You think it's based on lawyers and paying off lawyers and judges and politics. And I'm telling you, no, it's not that much based on politics. Politics has a certain momentum or front, and people have challenged it, and the reformers are not the majority. Only a few people wanted the abolition of formal slavery. Only a few people wanted the end of witchcraft trials. But they worked their case. They were able to dismantle, assault the major front that the Roman Catholic Church was holy, that the judges were holy. They were able to direct reasoning to challenge the front of culture or challenge the front of someone else. So if someone uses their credibility to attack you and you're a sincere person, your front is real, your values are real, how you describe yourself is honest, that person's risking collapse of their front. They're risking the fall of their credibility because they're basing their credibility on discrediting you, claiming you're misrepresenting yourself. And there's usually enough records, college transcripts, working records, taxes records, awards, other people that can verify your front. And it's hard to defend your front by yourself, though a few very awakened, enlightened beings can do that. I think it's generally difficult with just one consciousness, but none of us are really just one consciousness. One consciousness to defend our front or our claims. So Bill of Rights are a claim. It's a bill. You got to pay it. You have to, as your rights are assaulted by doctors, by judges, you have to defend it. And they're claiming, for the greater good, you're being selfish, anti-science, and you have to attack the front of science. It's not based on honest peer review, but based upon corporations and government grants. And you usually use conventional arguments. Conventions are current. It's like water. Water's going to seek out a path, a habit of flowing, whether it's a river, a stream. And sometimes it's going to jump its banks. The banks are holding and betting on the current flow of consciousness, the momentum of consciousness, or the momentum of conventions. And those conventions, largely controlled by politicians and lawyers and judges, could be directed against you. And now you're in a battle because you can be innocent and framed. And how well can you argue your case? And you supposedly need a lawyer who's usually in a secret fraternal organization to argue your case, but he could argue against you. He could be, or she could be duplicitous in arguing against your case. So society doesn't want you to argue your case, so it promotes two fronts. The monotheism, where you don't argue your case. You pray to God, and God, the big lawyer, defense attorney, public defense defender, is going to defend you. No, it's not going to work. Did God defend Jesus? No, they crucified him, supposedly. So the great public defender is a myth developed by government so you don't work your case correctly. The second myth is materialism, that how you work your case doesn't. It's politics, it's money, it's follow of money, it's who you know, it's how good of a lawyer you get. So the two pillars of society is religion, particularly monotheism. The second pillar is materialism. And they are the fronts of society. Monotheism, religion, and materialism, which is politics, economics, because you're not supposed to know to argue your case. And it's hard to believe in your case since so many innocent, sincere people are framed. And they're ways of framing people. Because there isn't an all-knowing, loving God. That's the empire's propaganda. They frame a person by having one of their friends as a drug addict, by having a drug safe house in the neighborhood, by confusing them. So once you're put in prison, the local deity, the local consciousness can confuse you with other criminals. So once you're in prison, it's hard to get out because that's a low-level consciousness. And you go argue your case, it's hard to be separated in the same uniform and the same activities. So it's a lot easier arguing your case outside of prison because you live in a different house, your clothes are different, hopefully your name is different. So we're arguing our case to the field of consciousness. A large part of that field of consciousness is just people. Our friends, our enemies, the officials. A lot of arguing our case is just to the people. And I'm making a claim that there's other loose consciousness, particularly clouds and trees and stuff. They're watching consciousness. They're not directly communicating with us. So a person that can work their case. I'm not saying praying. I'm saying work your case. You understand the attacks and criticism of yourself, of your front. Keep your front honest. Don't make any exaggerated claims. Keep your claims humble so you can defend them. That's your front. And then we have to have enough people to permeate the false fronts of government and culture, like their false religion, false politics, false democracy. We have to permeate and begin reducing credibility because the front is based on credibility, how much consciousness believes in your claims. And the words are important. Claims. You don't really have any rights. They're claims you have to defend. Culture. So you go to Saudi Arabia, there's different claims. Government's going to frame you differently, not as a rapist, but as someone who insulted the Quran or did witchcraft. Get framed differently in different cultures. May not be true, but they have such a momentum of throwing that charge. The charge is real, and that's where people get confused because justice is blind. It's blind because it's a battle of fronts who can work their case to secure their front, reduce the credibility of those who are trying to harm them. Okay, I need a few second break here. Let me see here. Anybody have any questions or something I should repeat, or they want to challenge my claims? You can challenge my claims. Yeah, that's nice when you actually have a friend defend your character, Sandy. And we have to understand this is not a battle of absolute truth. That's why you're taught religion. Oh, truth, God, pray, boom, it works. No. You can be framed. You could be dying of an illness because there's been a false claim that took against you. Yeah, I even think most illnesses and accidents, like in the Hippolytus, should read the Hippolytus by Euripides, an English translation. It's interesting because the Greeks, ancient Greeks, saw that when you charge a person, it could harm them. You see that in the Gospels where Jesus charges the fig tree for not giving fruit, not doing a share of work, and the fig tree dies. When we charge a person, it affects them. And the empire doesn't want us charging, so what does it say? Do not judge so you won't be judged. You have two capabilities as consciousness. One is to bless or encourage. And it makes a difference. You're like sending consciousness. I don't know what you're sending. Grace. And the other one is to charge a person for wrongdoing. You're like saying, no, you don't have this credibility. You're removing consciousness from that person. The empire, which is criminal, they want to remove your ability to charge the empire. So they have propaganda, they have targeting, gang stalking, censorship. They want to block you from charging the empire because charging works. So they say, don't judge, unconditional love, unconditional love. That's the empire speaking. It's Julius Caesar speaking. You have to hold people accountable to focus justice. And it's important you hear me say this. Other people really don't summarize it well. I do. I don't say, oh, love, 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 God, God, God. I said, no, you got to hold people accountable, understand what is justice, what is a fair share, who is being framed, who's not being framed, who's being greedy, who's being sadistic, who's being cruel. You got to start figuring out this stuff. You got to be Sherlock Holmes. You got to share. You got to lock your home. Yeah, you got to realize you're with human beings, and a lot of them are cruel. It's not a question of just loving. You have to prosecute the wrongdoing. That's why those who are in charge are in charge. They're charging the wrongdoing. And they're also charging the right doing because they want to be in charge, and they're criminals. Okay, I think I covered my major points, 30 minutes. I don't want to go on. I had to develop the theme. And I'm going right up here again. Okay, so I'm claiming the claims are your fronts. They clash, and they even have to do with the weather. That not only when you reach higher awakening or awareness do you experience more pain usually. You see more injustice. You see more tragedy. The weather may respond pretty quickly because the front is changing because other consciousness sees through you, feels through you. And as you awaken it to a higher level of perception and better values and more accuracy, you could be altering the larger front. So new front is coming in. Weather front. Whether you should do things. Sometimes your case doesn't take, so the weather is saying, snow, ice, don't go outside, contract. Weather is saying torrential rain, don't go outside, contract. When your case takes, how you argue your front. You expand. You're in hostile territory where people argue against your claims or your values, your claims or your values. You have to shrink. You have to contract because your case is not taking. So, yeah, that's a lot different than religion, isn't it? It's a lot different than politics. And I'm going to say later, I think I covered it pretty well. And basically, your friends are the people who support your case. It isn't, oh, you agree with me. They support your case, your front. You're a sincere person. This is what you think is correct. It's not that harmful. They overlook little mistakes you make. But they support your general case. Your friends support your front. If they attack your front, they're not supporting it. They may have to help you correct it, and then you have to decide. But I'm going to say later, like Linda, and I think I covered it under 35 minutes, which isn't bad. Okay.